recording can be downloaded at any time by any of the members. So today we're going to have a look at the sample analysis of some of your classmates, and we're also going to analyze a previous exam. The first thing we're going to do is to look at the previous exam. I'm going to hear your views about it, how I'm going to see first how you are going to deal with such questions. We will discuss them together, and then we will start, or rather, we will speak about how to write your analysis. Because by reading your homeworks, after reading your homeworks, I realized that you have a serious Hello. Hello.
I think there's a problem with the audio.
Sorry. How about now?
Yeah, it's great.
It's good.
Good. All right. So I'm not having my headphones anymore.
Yes.
I was saying, well, it's very important that you study carefully the literary analysis, not only the method of literary analysis, but even essay writing. It's important that you learn how to put your ideas together. And you should know that this year things are going to be a little more serious than they used to do before. Things are not going to be as simplistic, maybe, or as basic as they used to be in first year or in second year. You are also going to be strictly evaluated for your language, because this year you are considered as graduated students, or you are going to be considered as students that are or rather you are going to graduate in a few months, and thus we need you to show a good mastery of the English language. We need you to show a good mastery of writing as well. So your evaluation in all the modules, and not only this one, is going to be quite strict. So you have to pay attention to every word you use, and concepts are also important. At this level, you are considered as advanced learners, and you are not evaluated only on knowledge or on the kind of language that you are using. You're also evaluated on the basis of your mastery of the concepts, because next year you're going to be in one of the masters, be it literature and civilization, or didactics, or linguistics. So each teacher is going to evaluate your knowledge of the concepts and your use of the concepts. Concepts are very important. You are not allowed to use them arbitrarily. Example, a story is not a novel. And even though it may seem to you obvious or maybe not important, it is important. Each of them is a whole is a separate or is an independent literary genre, and you cannot use one instead of the other. So a story is a story, a novel is a novel, a short story is a short story. Okay, so such concepts are very important, and you have to pay attention to them. Let's have a look at the sample of the exam question first. This was the exam topic of last year. Of course, it's just as you used to do in second year. It's 2 topics, and you have to choose one of them. So topic 1, as usual, is a direct statement, and you have to comment on it. You have to write an essay about it. And second topic is an excerpt that you are going to analyze. So the first topic goes: compare Mark Twain's and Frederick Douglass' attitudes towards slavery in The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, and the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, American slave. This year you didn't deal with the narratives of Frederick Douglass, but let's say let's see what you have to say about the adventures of Huckleberry Finn first. Before we move to topic 2, I want you to think about this topic. Think only about the adventures of Huckleberry Finn and tell me what are your views. What are you going to speak about? I'm listening. Is anybody here?
Can I say something, my lady?
Yes, of course.
In the adventure of Huckleberry Finn, the slavery is is the main theme.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most dominant, the most dominant theme in the novel.
Uh-huh.
So, and we can develop from this idea and to go and give some examples from the novels,
Mm-hmm.
Since I think Jim, the slave, is mentioned in all the chapters.
The chapters.
Yeah.
Yes. Slavery here is, or rather, Jim. Sorry, Jim is an important character in the novel.
Yeah.
It's the main character, and he plays. He is one of the pillars of the events of the novel. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we can also mention the time when the novels was written, or the setting. It was before the American Revolution War, so we can also. That's why Twain is tackled this issue.
Yes, it was the time of the Civil War,
But
and
it is very interesting to point out.
yes, very good, very good. Mm-hmm.
Mrs.
Yes.
Was it before or after the Civil War?
The setting of the novel was quite before the Civil War, even though the author wrote it after the Civil War, but the setting was placed before the Civil War.
Ah, I understand. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, what are your views? What about the others? Now here's a different question. When I was in the year in which I studied this novel, we had a national contest, and in the national contest, we had the question about it. In the question, we were supposed to compare the types of realism that existed in America during the 19th century. That is, we had to compare the genteel tradition and the local color movement. So if you get a question like that, or this question, what you are supposed to do is to focus on the keywords and focus on how the novel, each of the two novels, will highlight such keywords. Yes, someone had a question to ask. Yes, somebody wanted to ask a question here. Yes, Malika?
Yes. I think that both Mark Twain and Frederick Douglass shed light on the theme of slavery and racism in their works, and they were both or they both show sympathy toward the characters who suffered from the slavery, who were slaves.
Yes, but not only that. We don't just have a character who suffers, sorry, who suffers from slavery. We also have other characters, and whose role in the novel should not be ignored. Yes, and remember that you have to write a whole essay about this, so you have 20 lines to fill. Yes.
Yeah, I think the main difference between the two is that Mark Twain was a white man who was against slavery, whereas Frederick Douglass was a black one.
Okay. But yes, thank you, Aisha. عبد الإله أسامة بن طلحة, yes. Yes, I'm listening. Hello, I don't know if there's a problem with my computer or if I'm losing the sound, or Abdul Ilah, are you talking?
Oh, sorry, I was muted.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So the question was how Mark Twain feels about slavery, right?
It was rather about the depiction, sorry, his attitude towards slavery.
So I consider Huckleberry Finn as a reflection of Mark Twain in the novel.
Mm-hmm.
So if I take this as an example, Huckleberry Finn had contradictory point of views about slavery. Sometimes he would go against his society and say that slavery is a bad thing, but in other times he just acts like a normal American person at that time, just accepts slavery. For example, in the, I think, last paragraph in the novel, he said something about slavery, that it is bad, and then he said, I think, the N word.
Mm-hmm.
So this shows that Mark Twain has a contradictory opinion about this. That's what I think.
Thank you very much. So yes, the answer actually includes more or less most of the things that you have provided here. So when we are speaking about the attitudes towards slavery, I am not going to speak about Frederick Douglass because you haven't dealt with it. I am going to stick only to the adventures of Huckleberry Finn. So when we're speaking of the attitudes of the author towards the slavery in the novel, first you are going to, in the introduction of your essay, you are going to paraphrase the statement that you have here. And by paraphrasing the statement, you are going to show your perspective in the essay. What is the perspective that you are going to defend in this essay? What is the main statement that you are going to defend in the essay? You have to put your statement in the first paragraph in the introduction. And then as you start the analysis, you are going to speak about it in details. You are going to break the main statement into 3 or 4 ideas and discuss each of them in particular. That is, you're going to say, in this case, Mark Twain's The Life and Adventures The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn reflects or shows to a certain extent the slavery in America during a particular time period and the attitudes of the white people to slavery, particularly represented in 2 main, or in a number of main and contradicting characters such as Mrs. Watson and Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. And in the analysis, you are going to show how each of them approached the idea of slavery and how each of them made their opinion about slavery. So Mrs. Watson was kind of the woman who represented slavery. She was a flat character for slavery, for the idea of slavery and racism. Huckleberry Finn was a young man who was influenced by his society, but he was still in the making. He had to go through changes, and he had to make choices, and he was on the one side entirely influenced and manipulated by his society, but on the other side He was wondering whether he had to rebel against this society, and by making his choices, he chose hell rather than paradise, because he thought that the people who will go to hell are or rather the people who will go to paradise are the people who are waging for slavery and the people who are defending slavery, and thus he chose to go to hell because he is not going to find them there. Okay. So each of the characters in here represents a different attitude, and each of them represents a different way of exposing the problem. So each of them will should be discussed in a separate paragraph, if I can say so. If you don't have enough lines for a whole paragraph, you can discuss two main characters in one paragraph. But while writing, you have to bear in mind one thing: do not discuss more than one idea in a paragraph. Okay, that is, if you are discussing, for example, the attitude of Huckleberry Finn to Jim, or with Jim, for example, devote a whole paragraph to Huckleberry Finn and Jim, but you do not speak of what happened with the others within the same paragraph. Okay, if you want to speak about something new, start a new paragraph, but also a paragraph should not be less than 4 lines. Okay, if you have less than 4 lines, it is not a paragraph. Also, these are very important because when we are evaluating your writing, we're also taking into consideration these tips. A sentence must not discuss more than one idea. Okay, so if your sentence started talking about Huckleberry Finn and Jim doing an action, for example, it has to stop there. You should not be talking about another action. If you are talking about, for example, um, Jim and Huckleberry Finn, uh, um, or the moment in which Jim was taking care of Huckleberry Finn, your sentence should stop there. You do not speak about Huckleberry Finn's um, existential questions, for example, when he was wondering whether he had to turn Jim or keep hiding him. Okay, so you do not put this within the same sentence as the previous one. Each of them goes in a separate sentence. Okay, make sure that your sentences are precise, they are clear, they are simple, and they speak of only one thing at a time. Before you start talking about something else, put a full stop. The full stop has the function of organizing your essay, of organizing your sentences and giving them a good structure. Use them. Okay. Now let's move to the second topic. Now, topic 2 is an excerpt from Daisy Miller. And in your essay, it says here, your essay should include identifying the passage, the literary genre, the theme, the setting, and characterization. Okay. Now, let's have a look at the text. You see here that we have no title, nor author, but you can easily guess that this text was taken from Daisy Miller. You can see here Mr. Winterbourne's name, and then you can also see here Daisy. You can also see Mrs. Walker. Okay, so can you think about this excerpt and start answering the ideas? First, you have to identify the passage. You have to talk about, sorry, the literary genre, the theme, the setting, and the characterization. Okay? Anyone? hear me because I am not talking. I gave you a few minutes to read the text. Actually, I wonder if you are reading the text or am I just sitting here? I reading the text. Hello.
Yes, miss.
Yes, we are indeed. Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry, I think the first and second questions are very easy. Identify the passage and the literary genre. Can you identify them?
Yeah, Miss.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. This is an excerpt extracted from the realist psychological novella Daisy Miller, written by Henry James in 1878. It is
Mm.
a novella biased on the genteel tradition because Henry James preferred the European life over the American one.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you very much, Abdul Basit. So, sorry, when you are talking about this, you have to provide this. We said you have to provide the title and the author, and it's very important that when you are providing the literary genre to also give a small overview of the literary genre. You have to tell the reader what the literary genre is about. Okay, I didn't tell my students to do this last year because I was only initiating them on literary analysis. But this year, you are supposed to do things with more clarity and with more sophistication. So when you are presenting or when you are introducing the literary genre in the introduction, you also have to speak about it. Do provide something about the literary genre to tell the reader what it is about. Okay, that is, if you are speaking here about the genteel tradition, you have to tell that it is a realist tendency, or rather, it's a movement in American realism, which shows to a certain extent life in the eastern side of America, in which and shows a lifestyle that is very similar to that of the European lifestyle. That the authors in this tradition were somehow influenced by the European lifestyle. Most of them were also expatriate authors, as is the case of the Henry James and so on. I think someone was trying to speak. Yes? No? Okay.
Mrs.
Yes, Ahma?
May I ask you about the date when the story was published? Because I was confused. I found so many dates online, and I don't know.
Actually, I'm really bad with dates. I cannot give you an exact date. I never remember dates of publication, and I don't really care about them because this is not what we care about in the literary analysis. So in the excerpt, if you are provided a date of publication, you have to write it down. If you are not provided a date of publication, do not bother with it. Okay. Our purpose in the literary analysis is to see your understanding of the language, your ability to speak about the text, but we don't really care about the date of publication.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions? Okay,
Yeah,
let's, yes, yes.
Was my introduction enough, or did it need more details?
Yes, your introduction was enough. Maybe you could have added a few more details about the genteel tradition. Sorry, and about the novel. Okay, you could have added just a few things about the novel and a few things about the literary movement. Now, let's speak about the second question. You are supposed to speak about the theme. What do you think of the theme of this excerpt in here? You have here, Daisy turned to Winterbourne, beginning to smile again. He was still more perplexed for his inconsequent smile. For this inconsequent smile made nothing clear, though it seemed to prove indeed that she had a sweetness and softness that reverted instinctively, to the pardon of offences. It has never occurred to Mr. Winterbourne to offer me any tea, she said with her little tormented manner. I have offered you advice, Winterbourne rejoined. I prefer weak tea, cried Daisy, and she went off with the brilliant Giovanelli. She sat with him in the adjoining room, in the embrasure of the window, for the rest of the evening. There was an interesting performance at the piano, but neither of these young people gave any heed to it. When Daisy came to take leave of Mrs. Walker, this lady conscientiously repaired with the weakness of which she had been guilty at the moment of the young girl's arrival. She turned her back straight upon Miss Daisy, and left her to depart with what grace she might. Sorry. Winterbourne was standing near the door. He saw it all. That was very cruel, he said to Mrs. Walker. She never enters my drawing room again, replied the hostess. So what do you think of the main theme?
Mrs.
Yes?
We can say that the main theme is individual versus society. It is depicted in how Daisy Miller didn't want to comply to the social rules in Europe, and how she challenged them and never let them break her freedom or the way she behaved, whether whether they warned her about it or criticized her or spread rumors about her, she never complied to their rules.
Yes. Sorry, who was speaking? Because I didn't look at the list.
It's
Rahma?
Rahma.
Yes.
Yes.
So, Rahma, what you said is true. But if I'm going to read this on a paper, I am still not going to be convinced,
Yes.
or rather, I will not feel really comfortable with it. Can you tell me why?
Um,
You
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
Of course, because I am the one who is not confused or convinced. Well, I wouldn't be really satisfied with it because it does not include anything from the text that you have in hand, although it's true.
Maybe I should. Maybe I shouldn't have mentioned that. That she didn't comply to Mrs. Walker's rules in her party. Maybe.
You had to include more examples from the
Yeah.
text. You have to include
From the
more events from the text. Okay, so everything that you said was true, but you could have
but it
added a
was
few things from the
yeah
text.
too
For example,
general.
sorry.
It was too general, as if I was speaking about the whole novel and not just the excerpt.
Yes. So presenting it this way, it makes you look as if you've been just learning by heart a sample analysis and you came here and brought it down. Okay. So in order to make your essay more personal and your answers more personal, more um, we want to show to see your understanding. Okay, we want to see you through your paper, so try to include a few things from the excerpt to show that this idea has also you have grasped this idea from what was provided to you. You have read the text, understood the text, and extracted things from the text. Yet when I am saying this to students, sometimes they will just put a citation from a quote from the text, and they will just put it there because I said you have to extract examples from the text. But if you just put a quote from the text without explanation, it's also not enough. Okay, so you have to explain and back up your arguments with things from the text. Okay, so if you say it's Daisy against it's the conflict, a conflict between the individual and society, because Daisy went through prejudice and went through misjudgment while in Europe, everything that you said there is true, but you also have to provide things from the text. You say, for example, or rather, the misjudgment was emphasized by Mrs. Walker's attitude, who walked away from Daisy when she was leaving her house, in order as an indirect message or as an implicit message to Daisy that she should not go back to her again, but also as a way of demeaning her and devaluing her in front of society and in front of other people who have attended the party. In a way, Mrs. Walker is punishing Daisy for being herself and for being individualistic in European society. So you have to provide examples and include them in your argument. Use these as backup for your arguments. Anybody else? Can anyone else share the idea about the theme?
Miss,
Yes, Melika?
can we consider the theme of, can we consider confusion as a theme in this passage? Because it's portrayed uh, in the way Mr. Winterbourne was all the time seeing
Daisy.
Daisy. Yes, he was puzzled,
Mhm.
and he couldn't understand how such a beautiful woman can behave in such an
Yes.
impolite way.
But Malika, again, if you say confusion, it's not enough. Confusion comes here as a very immature way of addressing the text. But what is it that has caused the confusion? Okay. Now, when you explained your argument, you said he was confused because he thought that she was acting in an impolite way. The fact that he thinks that she was acting impolitely means that he judged her. So the right word to use here is judgment. That Mr. Winterbourne was judgmental to her. he judged her, he misjudged her, he made prejudice over her. Okay, so prejudice and misjudgment are more accurate as words here rather than confusion, because confusion cannot really be the main theme. The theme should be more should be clearer, more precise, and it's something to be discussed. Okay, a theme is something to be analyzed, to be discussed. It should be problematic in the novel or in a text. Is it fine?
Yes, I get the points. Yes, yes, thank
All
you.
right. Yes, Abdel Ilah?
I have a question concerning
Yes.
theme. So, like specific theme.
Can you speak up,
Provide-
please, Abdel Ilah? I can't hear you.
Oh,
Can you repeat, Abdel Ilah, and shout or try to speak up? I cannot hear you.
yes. You can hear me now.
Yes, now I can hear you.
So concerning themes, like we don't have specific themes, right? We can like provide any theme if we have proper arguments, right?
Can you provide, sorry, can you provide any theme? Was that your the entire question? So yes, you can provide any theme considering that it is related to the text. Okay. The first thing you have to think about is that the theme that you are providing is also visible in the text under analysis. The theme is here in this excerpt. Example, we have here, for example, misjudgment. So you cannot speak of innocence because we don't see much innocence in this excerpt as much as we see misjudgment. All right. So you cannot speak of something that is not in the excerpt. You have to speak of something that is in the excerpt in order to show that you have read and understood the excerpt. Okay. Again, also, sorry. Uh, you have to provide a strong
Hello.
evidence. Yes, Sama?
What about the theme of communication? Is it worth? Hello.
Can you repeat, please?
I said the
Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
I said the bourgeoisie theme. Since we have
Yes.
this the tea party, the piano, or this background, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
about the rich people in Europe. Can we mention it as a theme?
I wouldn't really stick to that as a theme because it's really marginal. This is not the goal
All
of
right.
the text. The goal of the text is to show something else. So the theme is what the text is truly showing. So I advise you here not to go to small things, to marginal things that are not important, and focus on the idea that is most important in the text. Okay? The main idea in the text, the idea that is the focus of the excerpt rather than something additional or something marginal. Is it fine?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so let's speak about the next question is the setting. Setting is very important. Now, it's not precise here whether it's time or place setting, which means that you have to speak about them both. Can you look at in the text whether there are time and place settings?
Yeah, we have the the adjoining room.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I think the time the place is in Mrs. Walker house.
Yes.
So
How about the others? Hello.
Yes, Miss. I believe just like he said, it's in the adjoining room
Mm-hmm.
and in the evening. I just have a question. Here
Yes.
we saw Giovanelli, so it means that it was in Italy, right? But
Yes.
can we mention this as Italy is not mentioned in the excerpt?
No, we cannot mention Italy nor Rome because they are not mentioned in this in this excerpt. Okay. You can say the main setting here is Mrs. Walker's house. Okay. The whole thing happened in Mrs. Walker's house, so we see it here that she says she will never enter my drawing room again. So we know that she is in Mrs. Walker's apartment. Okay. So in short, it's an evening in Mrs. Walker's house. But again, if you provide the setting and say the setting is Mrs. Walker's house in the evening and stop there, the sentence is not going to be interesting. What happened in Mrs. Walker's house? What happened in this evening and why? Okay, what is so important or so interesting in such place? So when you are going to mention the setting, you also have to analyze the setting. You also have to tell what is particular with the setting. Why is this setting particular, different, or interesting? What is it symbolic? Well, what happened to the protagonist in this setting, and so on. So in this case, Daisy or the event of this excerpt happened in Mrs. Walker's apartment in the drawing room and the adjoinment, I think. Where's that word? Sorry. And yes, she says there was an interesting performance. Yeah, in the adjoining room. Yes. So it happened in the adjoining room and the drawing room of Mrs. Walker. Oh, yeah, of Mrs. Walker. Um, and you would say in which or it's a place where Daisy was ill-treated by Mrs. Walker. She was treated in a very bad way, or she was disrespected by Mrs. Walker for her choices. And it was also a moment in which Mr. Winterbourne felt the confusion. Now, Marika, you can speak of confusion. Mr. Winterbourne felt the confusion towards Daisy's behavior, but also felt pity over her for the treatment that she had from Mrs. Walker. It's also a place, the place is also symbolic because it represented Daisy's banishment from society, because when Mrs. Walker banished her from her party, she was also banishing her from society, from her social role, sorry. And she was, in a way, turning the entire Roman society or the entire American community that she was part of in Rome against her, and she was placing her as a bad person, and she was placing her as a wrongdoer and turning everyone against her. Okay, now let's speak of the characterization.
Mrs.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
If there is no indication of time in the excerpt, but we
Yes.
know the time because we've already read the story, should we mention it or no?
No.
Because it wasn't mentioned.
No, mention only the time that was provided to you in the excerpt.
And if there is no, we don't mention at all.
Well, if we didn't, the excerpt is done by one of the teachers, okay? So it's only one of us, as well as the questions. So if we know that there is time and place in the excerpt, we'll ask you to speak about them. If there is no time and no place, We will not ask you to speak about them. Okay?
Yeah.
So if we ask you to speak about the settings in general, it means there is either time or place or both. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. How about characterization in the excerpt? Can you speak about characterization? Here's the excerpt again.
There are three:
Yes.
Winterbourne, Daisy, and Mrs. Walker.
Okay, Marika. Yes.
Yeah.
And Giovanelli too.
Yes, Giovanelli is also mentioned. Yes. Can you explain?
But yeah, Giovanelli, yes.
Is
Yes,
that all?
Winterbourne is the friend of Daisy, and he was perplexed about her behavior, and at the end he misjudged her. Um, Mrs. Walker is the it is not mentioned.
Mhm. It's okay. You can say that she's presented as an antagonist here. She's not the main antagonist in the novel, but she's presented as an antagonist. That is, she is part of the role of antagonist because in the novel there is no precise antagonist. The entire society is protagonist for Daisy. So in this case, you can say that Mrs. Walker is presented as an antagonist because she was judgmental and harsh to Daisy. Okay? Hello? Do you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, we do.
All right. So, I can't see you, so I'm not really sure if you're following, unless if you respond. Okay? But there, in your analysis or in your answers, the answers that you have given me about about the characterization were quite limited. You didn't say everything. Okay, you have given me very basic, very limited answers, and you do not get the full answer, the full mark for that. So the first thing that you do when you are presenting any of the characters, be it Winterbourne, Daisy, or Mrs. Walker, or else. Sorry, I didn't know there was someone. Guest. So I was saying, um, when you are introducing any character, be it Daisy, be it Winterbourne, or Giovanelli, or Mrs. Walker, you have to describe them thoroughly. Okay, first describe what kind of person they are, what kind of personality they have, how they are depicted in the novel, and then you have to tell whether they are protagonist, antagonist, round, and flat. So by introducing Mr. Winterbourne first, the first thing we knew about him is that he is 27. I know that 27 is not mentioned in this excerpt, but you can mention that too in your analysis as an addition to his character because you are going to analyze the character. So in this case, it's okay to mention things about the character that are not mentioned here. So yes, you can say Mr. Winterbourne was a student in Switzerland who was age 27. He is depicted as an intelligent young man. He is respectful, but he is curious. He loves challenges as he was challenged often by by Daisy. Yet he seems to be a judgmental person because he judged her at different occasions. And then you're going to tell whether he's a protagonist or antagonist, main character, secondary character, is he round or flat, and so on. Same thing goes for Daisy, same thing for Mrs. Walker, and for Giovanni. Did anyone here have anything to say?
Yes, Miss.
Yes?
Is it enough to say here, for example, that Daisy is the protagonist and that she is a somehow a round character, I believe, and explain it why she is a round character and stop him right there?
No, it's not enough. You have to introduce her first as a person. Okay, who is Daisy? Daisy is the protagonist of the novel, yes. She is a young woman. She was traveling from America to Europe. She is depicted as an innocent, playful, and challenging young girl who does not conform to the rules of the social lifestyle. She was misjudged by society. She was considered as a newly rich by the other members of her society. Okay, you have to say many things about her. You have to describe her. Also describe her personality if you are able to do that. She was fun. She was also funny. She was spontaneous. Okay. So you have to give a good overview of the character before you start telling us whether they are round character or flat character and why. Is it okay, Abdul Basit?
Yes, just one more question. For
Yes.
example, if Daisy is the protagonist in the whole novel, but
Yes.
what if she isn't the protagonist in the excerpt you are given, for example? Will we also present her as the protagonist?
Yes. The protagonist is the same. They do not change from excerpt to novel. Okay? Even if you do not see her as a main character in the excerpt that was provided to you, she's still the protagonist of the novel. So she doesn't change. She's still going to be the protagonist. Okay?
What about the antagonist? The antagonist of the novel is society, I believe, but
Yes.
in excerpt you said it's Mrs. Walker.
Because in this excerpt, society is represented in Mrs. Walker's attitude to Daisy. Okay, or rather, it's Mrs. Walker who is representing the entire society in her attitude towards Daisy. So everything that was done in the excerpt by Mrs. Walker was symbolic of how society was treating her. She was symbolic of the social norms of the idea of the period.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
All right.
Yes.
Sorry, my lady.
Yes.
Is it worth to mention the symbolic of the names like Daisy as a common flower and something like
Yes.
that in the characterization? Yeah.
Yes, it's thank you very much. It's also very important
I
that you mention such symbolism in the analysis,
Um,
especially when you are talking about the characters. If there is any symbolism in the characterization, you have to mention it. For example, Daisy's symbolism as a spontaneous flower, as a flower for innocence and
and very
beauty.
common.
Sorry?
I said, and very common flower. Yeah. So,
Yes. Also, the symbolism of Mrs. Walker as society and so on.
all right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, Malika?
Symbolism is part of the figures of
Figures of
description of
speech.
characters.
Actually, I do not really. I know that it has been presented to you as part of symbolism, as a figure of speech, but symbolism is much more than a figure of speech. Okay? Symbols are presented in a text. You can find many symbols in a text, but I wouldn't really consider them as figures of speech. They are more than that. They are more important than just figures of speech. Symbolism is highly related to the main theme of the text. So I prefer to speak about the symbols in the themes, in the characterization, but I don't much like to center symbolism to figures of speech. For me, it's symbolism loses its value if we are going to put it only in figures of speech, because figures of speech are just language techniques that are used by the author. But symbolism is much more than that. Symbolism is related to the message of the author.
Okay, thank you.
This reminds me, or rather, this attracts my attention to one thing. You will notice some differences between the things that I am presenting in this lecture and things that are presented by other teachers in their lectures, because I see here there are some students who belong to other groups. And it doesn't mean that I am right and they are wrong. It doesn't also mean that I am wrong and they are right. I always say that in literature, there is no right interpretation and there is no wrong interpretations. There are hundreds of possible interpretations, and we are different people in here. We come from different backgrounds. I mean, me and the other teachers. Each of us is going to have their own interpretation, while each of us is going to focus on one thing more than the other. The way we present things are going to be different. So if you are going to hear something here and hear the opposite by your teacher, it doesn't mean that one of us is wrong. It's just one more way of seeing things or presenting things. Okay. So I had to say this just so that you would not be confused if you find any differences between what I say here and what other teachers may say or may have said in their classes. Okay. Rahma, you had something to say?
Yes, I was just wondering about the protagonist. Is it Daisy or Winterbourne?
Who do you think it should be?
I think it should be about Daisy because she is the center of the story. However, everything we know about Daisy is through Winterbourne's eyes. So it
Yes,
is a
because
bit,
he is the narrator.
yes.
A narrator is not always protagonist, okay? A narrator sometimes does not even have a name. But the protagonist is crystal clear here. It is Daisy. The entire novel is named after Daisy. Okay. If the main voice that we have in the text is that of Winterbourne, it's because he was doing the narration. That's all. But it doesn't mean that he is the main character because he is the one doing the narration. If you would take, for example, Frankenstein, Frankenstein was narrated by what was his name? Robert. By someone named Robert. I don't remember his full name, but the protagonist is still Victor Frankenstein, although the novel was narrated by someone else. All right? So the protagonist is very clear.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Now, if you go to the second page here, now if you pay attention to this statement here. This is a statement for you for the second semester. Read Dubliners and Heart of Darkness. Also read Frederick Douglass, the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass. Okay, that is for the second semester. We're going to discuss this, the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, an American slave. All right, so please study it. And we're also going to study Dubliners and Heart of Darkness. Dubliners is a short story, and Heart of Darkness is a novella. So all of them are very easy to read. You can you have time to prepare them and read them for the second semester. Okay. Here you are going to have the sample correction. Notice here -1 for the spelling mistakes, 3 points for grammar mistakes. Did you see this? Hello? Did you faint?
Yes, we saw it. Yes, we saw
Okay. So it's 10 points for the form, 10 points for the content, and -1 for each spelling mistake, -3 points for each grammatical mistake. Okay, for one grammatical mistake, you get -3 points. So please be careful with the language. I can never say this enough. Please be careful with the language. If you look at this file later, you're going to find the sample answer of the exam we have just analyzed. This is the sample answer of topic 1, and this is the sample analysis of the text. Okay. Now this sample analysis was provided by Dr. Berber, so you may find some differences because this is the first time I teach this module, while she has been teaching this novel for a very long time. Now, I'm going to look at the sample analysis that I had provided to you before, and we're going to look at the common mistakes and how to fix them or skip them. Both files were uploaded to your on Teams. So the first mistake that I found here in this student's paper is the name or the title of the module or the name of the module. He said he wrote study of literary works while it's study of literary texts. Okay. Second thing is the title of the novel. Now, a book title must only be italicized. Quotation marks are used for titles of papers, essays, short stories, poems that are published in books or inside journals. Okay, while the life and adventures of the adventures of Huckleberry Finn is a novel that has been published independently, so it should only be italicized. You do not italicize and use inverted commas in the same title. It's wrong to do that. You either italicize or use inverted commas. In your exam papers, you have to underline instead of italics. We know you cannot do italics in an exam paper, but you can underline. All right? So in your exam paper, you will underline instead of using the italics. So a book that was published independently should be italicized or underlined. There should be no inverted commas in here. If you use the inverted commas, it will mean for the reader that you are talking about a short story or an article or a poem that was published inside a book. For example, Dubliners, that you are going to study in the second semester, is a short story that was published inside a book. The Dead, sorry. The Dead is a short story that was published inside the book Dubliners. So Dubliners should be italicized because it's the title of the book. The Dead should be put in inverted commas because it was published inside the book. Now, here's the analysis. The passage presented above is an excerpt extracted from the American realist. See here, the student had written realistic. Okay, the mistake that was done by the student is realistic, while I corrected it to realist. Realist and realistic are not the same thing. Realistic is a description, it's an adjective, while realist is a concept. All right. While here we are here talking about the concept realism. So you cannot turn that into an adjective. We are not using the word realist to describe the text. We are using the word realist because it's a literary movement. Okay, so you cannot change it. It's realist, not realistic. The realist novel, Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, same thing. Keep the italics but omit the quotation marks. Chapter 4, that was written by the American author Mark Twain. The passage shows Huck's anxiety about the comeback of his abusive father. The overview should be a little more detailed, about 2 lines or 3. Okay, so you have to provide an overview that is a little more, that includes a little more details than this. A few more details, sorry. The passage is about when Huck went to Mrs. Watson. Now, I omitted when because it's not really accurate in this sentence. I replaced it by who. So I made it, the passage is about Huck who went to Mrs. Watson's house. Now, there is no need to italicize the characters' names. Yes, it's okay. You don't in the analysis you don't need to underline the characters. You do not need to italicize their names. No need to put them in inverted commas. No need to put them in colored pen or else. Okay, you really don't need to highlight the characters' names. Okay, it's Mrs. Watson's slave tip. When you mention a character the first time, introduce them and their role in the novel. Yes, if you see here when he said the passage is about Huck who went to Mrs. Watson's slave, Jim. But the author or the student here didn't say who Huck is. The student didn't say who Mrs. Watson is. And he didn't say who Jim is. So when you are doing this, you have to act like the reader knows nothing about these people. Okay, you have to act like the reader is discovering them for the first time. Do not, you have to consider that I, your reader, myself, know nothing about the text, and you are going to be informative. You are going to tell me about about these people, about these characters and the text and so on. Okay, so you have to tell who Huck is, you have to tell who Mrs. Watson is, and finally who Jim is. Okay, so when you mention a character the first time, introduce them and their role in the novel to give more quality to your essay. Hoping that he will give him an idea about Huck's father, the father's next step through the power of magic that is hidden within the big ball of the hair, a ball of hair that he owns. Let me see the comment here. That's too many clauses without punctuation. You can split this statement into sentences. See here that the student has put on a lot of things within the same sentence, and it makes it very heavy to read. So always use more punctuation in accordance with the number of clauses that you have put within a sentence. Yes, Abdul Basit? Sorry?
I have a question about the introduction of characters. Shouldn't we leave that to the characterization part?
Not necessarily. When you are introducing a character for the first time, it's okay to say who they are in very brief words. Okay?
So if we say who they are again in the characterization, it wouldn't be redundant, right?
You can change words. Okay?
Okay.
That is, we know that Huck is the protagonist, and we know that when you are going to speak about the characterization, you will tell us that he is the protagonist. So when you introduce him the first time, you don't say the protagonist, you can say he is the main character or the central character of the novel. The central character of the novel around whom most of the events happen. Okay?
Yeah.
So I have just made a sentence in which I told you that he is the main character without saying you that he is the protagonist.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Where is that? Here. Okay, so have a look at this statement. This is a statement that includes so many clauses, and it's kind of heavy. Okay, so let's see this. First information that we have in this sentence is that the passage is about Huck, who went to Mrs. Watson, went to Mrs. Watson's slave, Jim. Okay, so this is the first information. Second, hoping that he will give him an idea about Huck's father's next step, all right, to the power of magic that is hidden within the big ball of hair that he owns. So we have here three different statements. You have to use more punctuation, you have to use more full stops and so on in structuring the sentence, and in order not to put so many things within the same sentence, because it becomes heavy to read that. The text is targeted at the lay people. Actually, the text targets the lay people. So you're going to notice a few corrections of language here, a few things related to language. I will skip to the comments. Here I said you must describe the character, what kind of person he is. Yes, so this is what we were talking about earlier. When this student spoke of the characters, he did not show any depth of characterization. He was very basic while talking about the characters. And the answer was incomplete. That was not enough. Okay, so here's what he said. He said the characters we have. First, in the analysis, do not say we have. Okay, whenever always revise your essay. If you find we have, replace it by there is. Okay, always replace we have by there is. Do not immerse yourself in the analysis. Do not include yourself in the analysis. Okay, so the characters in this passage are Huck, a round and dynamic character who is also the protagonist of the novel. Okay, so this is all the students said about Huckleberry Finn, while there are so many things he could have added about him. Okay, this is not enough. You have to describe Huck first. You have to show his role in the novel, describe his personality, his character. Sorry. And then you have to tell why he is a round character, what makes him a round character. You do not just say he's a round character and move on, okay? You have to tell us why he's a round character. Also, you don't use sentence structures, or sorry, you do not use condensed forms or contracted forms like this one. Whose, didn't, don't, doesn't. You don't use that, or you don't do that in the academic writing. In academic writing, you have to use complete forms. This is why I have omitted the apostrophe s here and added is. Okay? No, I think this is was already there. Is was already there. But anyway, you do not use contracted forms. Instead of say haven't, you should be saying have not. Doesn't, you should be saying does not. Okay, did not. So you have to put the complete forms. Do not use contracted forms. All right, let's have a look at the next comment. Jim, also another round and dynamic character that plays the major role in the novel. Pap is a flat major character. Same remark regarding the characters. They must be described and analyzed. Okay, now all we have here about the Huckleberry's father, or Huck Finn's father, is Pap is a flat major character. Again, this is not enough, okay? So you have to tell who he is. You have to tell that he is the father of Huckleberry Finn, that he was more of a antagonist in this novel because he attempted, or he almost killed Huckleberry Finn. He has hurt Huckleberry Finn for a long time. Huckleberry Finn was escaping him as well as escaping his aunt when he was with Tom Sawyer and with Jim. So you have to tell that he was a drunkard, that he had very bad manners. So there are many things you could have mentioned about his father. Okay. The events of the passage are narrated from the central first-person point of view. That is clear from the use of the I throughout the passage. Again, in the text. So the point of view is not enough, or the analysis of the point of view is not enough. I said here, you must tell more about the narrator. Why is the point of view central? Are the events happening directly to the speaker? Is the speaker affected by these events? Is the voice of the speaker affected by the events, and so on? Okay, so you have to show that you care in a way or another when you are writing your essay. Do not just put basic information. You have to show that you have a good mastery of the analysis. You have understood what you are doing, and you are doing it with care. In the theme, we encounter many themes. Again, I have omitted this sentence because of the use of the personal pronoun. I replaced it by there are many themes, such as racism and slavery. Same remark. This could be observed clearly when seeing Huck referring to Jim using the N-word, in addition to clearly stating that he is, in fact, Miss Watson's slave. All right, Miss Watson's nigger. What was my remark here? No, this was not me. All of that could be disclosed, sorry, from the sentence, Miss Watson's nigger. Now, what the student, or something good that the student has done here, and for which I thank him, is the fact that he used citations from the text. That is, he has used arguments from the text. He has used quotations in order to back up his argument, which is a good thing. Okay, this is what I actually meant when I was saying show examples from the text to back up your argument. All right, let's see other comments. Never say we, instead say there in the text there is. All right. How about this comment? This sentence structure, the one means God or a lover. It's better to paraphrase it. Yes. Here, the student said, racism and slavery are not the only themes. The one can also see trauma and familiar domestic abuse. So what the student means by the one is actually readers or individuals. But the one actually either means God or means a lover. All right, you have found the one. When you say I have found the one, it means I have found a lover, or only the one, or maybe in some sentence structures, the one is a reference to God. Okay, so you cannot use that in a sentence. Instead, you can say the reader simply. In this comment, we have this is interesting, but this part has more direct quotes than your own comment, while there should be less quotes and more personal comment. Yes, I was saying earlier that it's good if you are putting or if you are using quotes from the excerpt. We call that citing. But you should not put more quotations. You should not put more direct quotations than your own language. Okay, we still need to see you. We still need to see your analysis. So if you have quoted one sentence, the one sentence should be discussed in many lines, and it should be followed by an entire paragraph written by you. Okay, while in this case we have too many direct quotations and very little language used by or written by the student himself. So remark, use less quotations and more paraphrasing. All right. Finally, this is a description of a figure of speech rather than the explanation of the figure of speech, which means providing deep and hidden meaning. Yes, in this case here, the student said it's a personification in which we see an inanimate object given a human value, which is talking. But when you say it's a personification in which we see inanimate object having a human value, you are still not saying what the author meant by the personification. While what we mean when we ask you to explain a figure of speech is that we want you to provide the implicit meaning. We want you to provide the hidden meaning. We don't want you to describe the figure of speech. I know that a personification is the fact of giving a human attribute to something not human. But what did the author mean to say? Okay, that's why I want you to provide. So if you are asked to explain a figure of speech, you don't say it's personification because it's inanimate and it was given a human quality. You say it's a personification in which the author means such or such. Okay, same thing for the metaphor, same thing for the simile, and so on. I think this was all for the, yes, the last comment was the conclusion. This essay did not include the conclusion. Sometimes the conclusion takes 3 points. So if you do not write the conclusion, you lose 3 points of the form. So conclusion is also very important for your essay. You will find here another sample analysis. Let me see if there's anything that is worth speaking about or that I didn't mention earlier. This novel is classified. Sorry. So classified within what is called the local color movement. Okay, that was just a correction. Yes, please avoid mistakes like this one. A tragic conditions. Now, a tragic is singular. Conditions is plural. Now, for this, the student can lose 3 points. while I know that the student knows that she shouldn't be doing this. Okay, so do not lose points just like that. She could have lost 3 points in an exam for something as basic as this. So be careful with such mistakes. One more comment. Yes? Yes?
If we have more than 3 grammatical errors in our literary analysis,
Yes?
it will exceed 9 points.
Yes.
So you will stop at 10, or you will
No, we continue.
you continue?
Yes, unfortunately. Yes, there is no limitation. I'm sorry, but it's that way, okay? I am not the one who put the rules. And as third-year students, you are required to show more consciousness while writing, okay? You have to care a little more while writing. All right? So yes, if we are run out of the 10 points of the form, we will start using the 10 points of the language, of the content.
Miss.
And the contrary is not true.
Well, if your language is correct, then you get the full 10 points of the form.
Okay. I mean the contents.
Oh, no. In the content, no. We can, well, not
good
sorry?
content. I mean bad language, but good content, good ideas.
Well, if the language is bad, it's still going to affect your grade, because if you have good ideas but bad language, the language is still is going to affect it. If it's the other way around, wrong ideas but good language, I think you can stop at 9 or 10. But again, it depends on how bad your ideas were. I mean, if you are off topic, don't expect more than 7. Yes?
Yes, all right.
All right. Yes, Abdulbasit?
It's about the conclusion. We only have to say what our opinion about the novel or the excerpt in general, right?
Yes. No, in the conclusion, you are free actually to put whatever you want. It can be your opinion, your personal opinion, but without saying "I think." Okay, you can put your personal opinion, but without saying "I think" or "in my opinion." You can put it indirectly, implicitly. Or you can put a conclusion that you have come up with from the entire novel. You can insist on one, or you can go back to one of the themes and explain it more in the conclusion. You're free in the conclusion. Just make it something that sums up the main ideas that you have come up with in your essay, and that closes the discussion. But you are really free to choose what to talk about in the conclusion.
Okay, that's better. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let's have a quick look here. Sorry. You've used the definite article here, which means that you mentioned these women before. Yes. I want you to look at this comment here. I said you have used, let's read the sentence first. Tom takes his friends to the cave and decides to make a gang. He starts to rob people as punishment, that he will face death and his family. For their betrayal, that he will face death and his family. Now, this the sentence structure is not okay here. They even take a blood oath. Slaves doubt Huck because he has nothing to lose, only his drunk father, who used to kidnap him. Furthermore, they decided not to kill the women. Now, when you say they decided not to kill the women, it seems like you have already mentioned these women and the reader knows who these women are. And then you are telling us that they decided not to kill the women. But nowhere before this line have you mentioned the women, okay? Nowhere in the previous paragraphs did the student mention the women. So this is the first time she mentions the women. So you cannot go directly and say they could not kill the women. Using the definite article here, the, means that these women are known, that the reader knows who the women are. But this is the first time these women are mentioned. So you cannot say the women as if the reader knows who they are. You have to tell who these women are in order to refer to them as the women. Or the sentence is incomplete. That is, you could have said, furthermore, they decided not to kill the women who were in the house they attacked. In this case, I know who the women are. All right. So you have to be really precise when putting your information. Next, he does not introduce himself as protagonist. He only introduces himself as narrator and narrates his adventure. The classification of Huck as protagonist comes from our understanding. Yes. So the student here said Huckleberry Finn. Sorry. The student here said Huckleberry Finn introduces himself as a protagonist character and narrator of the novel. Now, Huck Finn did not introduce himself, as a protagonist. Deciding that he is a protagonist is something that you do as a critic. All right, you are the critic here, and you decide that he is the protagonist based on his role in the novel. But he did not tell you in the beginning of the novel, "Hi, I am the protagonist." Although there was some self-reflexivity in the novel, but this was not the case with Huckleberry Finn. Speak more of his immersion in the narration. All right, so you are going to find, as you read these sample analysis, you're going to find more comments related to writing and the things to do, the things to avoid. Now, do you have any questions regarding what we have done today? Or do you think the things that I didn't mention that you still need clarification with, you still need to understand?
Can I ask a question, my lady, please, if you don't mind?
Yes.
Um, if we have like in exam the question, the first question to identify the passage and the literary genre, should we summarize the novel, or not summarize, just overall what the novel is about?
Yes, a very
In the
small overview.
introduction. Huh? Yeah.
Yes, a very short overview. Okay, very short overview, just in 2 or 3 lines, no more.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Mrs.
Yes, Rahma?
I do have a question about the register and the diction of Daisy Miller. I do understand that the register is formal, but what about the diction?
Well, the diction will depend on the excerpt that you are provided. You just have to look at the excerpt. If the excerpt includes more European words or more Latin origin words, then it is Latin origin. If in case it includes more Anglo-Saxon words, then it is Anglo-Saxon origin, okay? But in Daisy Miller, it is more Latin origin than Anglo-Saxon. It even includes so many French and Italian words, so it's basically Latin origin. Yes, عبد الإله? عبد الإله, do you have a question?
Yes. Can you hear me?
1 second, please. Let me just place the headphones. Maybe I'll be hearing better. Abdullah, please try to type your question because we cannot hear you. So try to type the question.
Okay.
Try to write the question in the chat section. I will read your question from the chat section and answer. Malika?
Miss, I have
Yes?
it's not related to today's literary analysis.
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask about when the literary analysis first appeared, and before it appeared, aware of all the themes that we extract nowadays from the excerpts or from the novels that we deal with. Or
Not sure I understand your question. I didn't understand the question.
well, the literary analysis, it's the second year that we are dealing with.
Yes.
And when it is first appeared,
Mm-hmm.
after the emergence of the novel, or
Oh, I understand. Actually, literary analysis. This is a this is a question related to criticism. Literary criticism has started from the age of Plato. It has started from the age of Aristotle and Plato, and a very long time ago. The first literary critics were philosophers. Okay, the first when Plato wrote his Utopia, he banished the poets from his Utopia because he thought that they were liars. They never told the truth, and that is where criticism actually began. And there have been so many forms of criticism. There have been so many approaches to literary criticism through time. And whenever a new literary genre would appear, new approaches would appear. As humanity has been evolving through time, perspectives have been changing, and approaches to the literary text have been changing too. The method that we are following now is a very basic method based on the main elements of the novel. So this method appeared with the novel because it is based on the basic aspects of the novel. While discussing the basic aspects of the novel: plot, setting, characterization, um, the audience themes, and so on. So these are the things that make up, that construct together a novel. So our analysis is based on them. That is, this kind of analysis has appeared directly with the novel because it is related to each of the elements of the novel. Did I answer your question?
yes, but the second half, I still want to ask something else. Um, Based on what you have said, when the authors write their works, we can say that they are aware of all the themes they introduced, and that we are supposed to extract from their works nowadays, or some of them just happen hazardously due to the flow of the story of their work.
No, authors are not always aware of all the themes that they are putting in their works. Okay. Again, it's related to the time, to the spirit of the time, and the ideologies of the time, how people think, and how people approach to the literary criticism too. Okay. For example, a feminist is not going to read the text in the same way as a Marxist. Okay, the Marxist is going to find themes that are related to poverty, to social inequality, to money, and so on, to material. A feminist is going to find themes that are related to women and to a woman's objectification. Okay, So an
Oh.
author may have just one vision, but you should know that in criticism there are 10 different approaches to the same literary text, which means that if the author was thinking of one theme, there are still 10 other ways of extracting 10 other themes from the same text that the author may not have necessarily noticed.
Okay, thank you.
Right? You're welcome. Also, some authors are not aware of their society's inequalities. So when they are criticized in the ages, or when they are criticized in the future or years later, uh, the critics will discover wrong things that were happening in that society that these authors themselves were not aware of, like Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe. Daniel Defoe was himself not aware that he was racist when he spoke of Friday in Robinson Crusoe. It is because the subsequent in the subsequent ages, critics were talking about him and studying him that they discovered such racism. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
welcome. Let's see the question of Usama. He said the questions are out of topic, but I think they are important. For students who don't like novels, would you advise them to go for LC? We'll discuss that. Does disliking novels prevent students or teachers from succeeding? Um, I'm going to answer this at the end. Let's see if we have other questions related to the text and to the syllabus. Any other questions related to the syllabus or to your lectures, to the literary analysis, to what we have been doing today? Anyone?
Miss, in the figures of speech, you said that we should give a deep explanation. Could you give us an example of what a good explanation of a figure of speech?
Okay, let me think of an example. When, for example, in Robinson Crusoe, there is a personification that says, the wave swallowed me down. So when he says the wave swallowed me, if you are to explain the personification, you don't say it's a personification because the wave is given a human attribute. This is a description. But explaining the figure of speech means to explain the deep meaning. Now, let me ask you this question. What did the author mean when he said, the wave swallowed me down? Or
He meant
swallowed
that,
me all at once, he said. Yes?
he meant that the waves were so huge that they drowned him.
Very good. This is how you explain the figure of speech. You have just explained it. Okay? So it simply means, or you are simply required to tell what the author truly means. So the wave swallowed me down is a personification, which means that the wave was very high and stronger than the protagonist, and he drowned inside it. That's all.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Yes, miss.
Miss, when you
1 second. Yes, Ben Musat?
Miss, when you give the deep explanation of the figure of speech, do we add the description like the given the human attributes, for example, for personification?
No need to. No need to, because when you say personification, you have already said it. Okay, so no need for the description. Go directly to the explanation, because you know that your time in the exam is limited. You only have 1 hour to do all these things.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Yes, someone wanted to say something?
Miss.
Yes?
Miss.
Yes, Hanan.
Miss, we talked only about the two novels. What about the first? Novel, Hard Times, by Charles Dickens? Isn't it going to be included in the exam?
Yes, it's included.
It's included. Okay.
Yes,
That's
I
all.
didn't speak about it because I was sticking to the things to the documents that I have here, but everything we dealt with is included.
Okay. Thank
All
you,
right.
Miss.
You're welcome. Any other questions? All right, let's go back to the question of Usama. Now, Usama, your first question was, sorry, sorry about this. Students who don't like novels, will you advise them to go for LC? In LC, there will be a lot of things. They are fun. A lot of things related to culture. A lot of things related to discourse analysis and to the analysis of language, but not from a linguistic point of view. It's the analysis of language from a cultural point of view and from ideological point of view. That is, you are going to discuss not only the words that were put on paper, but what they also include without really saying it. The traces of the word, if I can say so. Um, you will also be talking about the hidden things that are put in the text, but that are not told overtly. How the text refers to other texts, how the text refers to other works, and